Before we begin today's episode, my fellow co-host would like to take a moment to talk about something very serious.
Okay, so a person that I went to high school with, who I was in Tennessee with, he graduated 2 years ahead of me, and he's getting ready to graduate from West Liberty University. And he's also worked with EMTs. He's even worked with my uncle. And recently, he just got diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. And this hits a little bit strong because he is a friend of mine. Plus, I've known people who are actually cancer survivors and people who have been lost to cancer. I lost my maternal grandmother to lymphoma. So it definitely hits close to home.
Same here for me. I've lost a couple family members to some form of cancer.
Yeah, and it's definitely hit close. And I know that there may be some viewers from my home county who definitely are supporting this, and the fundraiser that they have is called Bryce Strong, which has navy blue and orange, and the slogan to it is called "His fight is our fight." It looks like this, so is that. And hopefully we can show our support not just for Bryce, but all those who are fighting cancer, who have survived cancer, to show that we have their backs.
Absolutely. Just know that if you're out there fighting, stay strong, continue fighting. We have your back. With that being said, do you have something to say?
Bring it to the table.
Glad to join you, Mr. Red.
Glad to join you, Mr. Blue. I am Dash Ireland.
I'm Spencer Nicholas.
And here we call it Bring to the Table. Unfortunately, we don't have a table right now because of location.
But the laptop is sitting on a table, so we're going to count it.
Yeah. Okay,
What's on the menu today?
Well, I am going to be talking about the Captain Marvel controversy.
I'm going to be talking about a very controversial bill that has been introduced in our state called West Virginia House Bill 2519, also known as the Concealed Carry on Campus Bill.
Yeah, which recently got voted down, but you'll get to that.
This got recently voted down, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, okay. Some background to this new series is that I felt that after the discussions we've had on my podcast, Dash's Call, and discussions we've had outside of the channel have been so enjoyable and so great. They've been very productive. So I brought the idea where we should have a series that facilitates discussion, and we can talk these out and have a nice civil discussion on these things, putting in our views and represent different leanings. I represent a right lean because I'm a libertarian who grew up conservative, and you tend to lean left.
Absolutely. I'm more of a moderate, but most of my friends may have what people consider liberal views, and I support some of those, but a lot of the instances, I'm more moderate. Sometimes I might agree with the conservative, but sometimes I might stick with a liberal point of view.
Yeah. And so the ultimate goal is not just to have these discussions about these important current events and bits of politics, but we also hope that other people out there follow suit and learn that people are going to have differing views, and it's great to really discuss them civilly, because I've seen too many videos where people are not civil, and there's just no debate. It's more of a one-sided army, because I've even debated people who are so one-sided and so devout in their beliefs that they don't want to debate. They just want to label you with things that are not true. I've been called a bigot when I'm actually not. You know me.
Mm-hmm.
I just have views. And that's the problem that we see in today's society, that they think that if you disagree with their ideology, that makes you this or that, which is wrong. You can disagree with an ideology. It just makes you someone who doesn't believe in that ideology.
We've seen families and friendships torn apart over just wanting to say, I'm right, you're wrong, when everyone's right and everyone's wrong at the same time.
It's an opinion. Like, there are some things that support your opinion, but that doesn't mean your opinion is better. All opinions are equal.
Mm-hmm.
There's also saying, like, and I've seen this from both sides. Like, I've argued with a lot of my own family, because I would argue about evolution, age of the earth, the whole Beauty and the Beast controversy from a couple of years ago. And they called me brainwashed by college, when it's just a matter of like starting to think for yourself, thinking critically and thinking outside the box.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's the infamous part of the far left, which they want to label you a bigot or some things, which it's just wrong. You see it from the far right, you see it from the far left, you see it from anyone who's radical or devout in a view that they think only their ideology is right.
Case in point, Charlottesville would be a perfect example where that's the ugly side of what happens when two differing extreme sides of a political spectrum meet up. It can only cause nothing but just violence in a way.
Yeah. So it's definitely part of the goal that I started on the podcast, where we facilitate discussion. Of course, on Dash's call, I'm known to get rather provocative, and I've already had my point proven already. And so I figure I'm going out of the provocative range, and we're going into the more civil and discussion facilitation range. Mm-hmm. So I figure like this gets into the better part, because first I was ticking off people, which that's kind of what I wanted, because I was trying to prove a case in point. And now we're getting to the part, well, let's discuss this further, especially with someone that I can talk politics with and whatnot. So that's that. So take it away, Mr. Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Red. Anyways, here recently in the our home state, there has been a bill that was introduced into our state legislature known as West Virginia House Bill 2519. I'll only read the introductory paragraph in a little bit of detail to give you an idea of what this bill is about. A bill to amend and reenact 18B-1-3 and 18B-1-6 of the Code of West Virginia 1931 is amended to amend and reenact 18B-1B-4 of said code, to amend and reenact 18B-2A-4 of said code, to amend and reenact 18B-2B-6 of said code, and to amend said code by adding thereto a new section designated 18B-4-5B, all relating to denying institutions of higher education the authority to restrict or regulate the carrying of a concealed deadly weapon by a person who holds a current license to carry a concealed deadly weapon, providing exceptions as to when regulation may occur, and designating these amendments as the Campus Self-Defense Act. Basically, what that means is that anyone on campus, whether that be a student, faculty, or other person who has a concealed carry permit, can bring a deadly weapon such as a firearm onto campus. And a lot of my friends and family and throughout the state itself have either voiced, of course, their opposition or their favor of this bill. And I can kind of see, the pros and cons of having this bill. Should an unfortunate situation like an active shooter occur on our campus or the neighboring campus, or any neighboring campus within our state, someone can be able to stop the threat very quickly.
Yeah.
However, in this case, I think the cons outweigh the pros, as when law enforcement arrives, they don't know who the shooter is. And if you have a firearm on you yourself, you're going to be labeled the threat by them. And also, people have also been pointing out,
hasn't there also been cases like where whenever that has happened, like when someone who is trying to defend people with a firearm, that some people actually have gotten shot and unfortunately died due to those kinds of incidents? Has that happened before?
I believe so.
Because I think it did happen before in one of the mass shootings that happened in the past 5 years, I think.
Possibly. Also, you never know when a party argument could escalate to the point that someone pulls out and discharges a firearm. Or, God forbid this happens too, someone in a dorm may be depressed. They have the weapon in their room because of this bill.
And the stress of colleges and whatnot.
And decide to, unfortunately, commit suicide. This is why I can easily say I side with those who oppose this bill for those reasons, not for emotional reasons, but for more
Logical stuff.
logical and, in some cases, moral reasons.
Yeah.
I would like to definitely hear your side to this argument as well.
All right. Well, considering I'm the conservative lean, I've always had agreement with the belief that having a gun is a fundamental right.
Right.
And I believe that concealed carry should have a permit. Considering, definitely in West Virginia, we do stress gun safety, and we haven't had many incidents with guns, especially back home from where I'm from, because we definitely stress gun safety. My family has stressed it. We have classes at my own county for it, and we have not had a real instance or anything. My high school has definitely received threats, but they're mostly empty threats from people who like to act stupid.
Same with my alma mater as well.
Yeah, those are teens. They like to act stupid a lot.
They want to try to get out of school.
Yeah, that too. And it's not okay. Definitely not okay. But the thing is, I've definitely had a support of it. But I've also had my idea of like the types of limitations we should have when it comes to this concealed carry stuff. I wrote a paper back freshman year where it was about whether you support or against having guns on a campus. So this has definitely been a topic that's been recurring throughout the years. And I wrote a paper saying where it's actually a happy medium between two, where I believe that basically a person should be allowed to conceal carry a weapon if they're at least 21 years of age and have a permit. Because science dictates that, the brain is not fully formed until at least the age of 21. And putting that perspective, that means that the brains of a lot of college students are not fully developed or matured. So they're going to have a lot of out of control feelings, possibly still some hormones that really affects and clouds their judgment, possibly. But if it's only limited to someone who's at least 21, that has a little bit of a better workout. With today's political climate, it's still a bit of a risk because some people are so radical in their views that they can take it out of hand easily.
Absolutely.
And plus, some people say, well, what if there's fear? Usually that's sometimes a risk some people take. Depending on where you're at, it depends on whether you should take that risk or not. I mean, with West Virginia, if you stress enough the need for gun safety as a priority and whatnot, I think there's less of a chance of that happening. But if you're in a place like, I don't know, Chicago maybe, that's where you don't want to take a risk. I mean, they already have gun control laws, and those do not work out at all. There's another thing. Gun safety is definitely one thing that should definitely be prioritized when it comes to guns. Mm-hmm. Because with gun safety, you're talking how to clean a gun, how to properly store a gun, legal guns, all that types of stuff. What to do and what not to do, like especially in hunting, because there are unfortunate accidents where people accidentally shoot another hunter.
Looking at you, Dick Cheney.
By the way, the movie Vice is coming out soon.
But there's another, little question I would probably bring up to those. What if, let's just say you have a concealed carry permit and the unfortunate situation arises where there is an active shooter on a college campus. What if you're in one building and said hostile intruder is on the other side of campus? Are you just going to risk your life to run over there to stop them because you have a weapon on you? Or would you...
What I would focus on first, before worrying about the shooter, is about worrying about getting people to safety.
Absolutely.
Because you're trying to save as many lives as you can. So you want to get them to safety and evacuate them, basically. After all, safety is something, like, not just towards guns, but towards people. Because it's really no use risking other people's lives just to go and immediately take down a threat. I think that whenever there's that opportunity, like you're in a different building, definitely evacuate them, get them to safety before you start making that rush judgment to sacrifice your life with the possibility that you're sacrificing a lot of not lives unnecessarily. So whenever you can, definitely work on bringing others safety whenever you have that chance and you have that need that arises.
Right.
I'm always going to stress safety. A lot of people bring up the possibility, but in like banning certain guns, but the guns that many shooters have gotten are actually illegal guns, like sawed-off shotguns, many banned guns. Now we're talking about the AR-15, but that was actually a designed civilian firearm for like state militias and whatnot, and they're well within their rights. And the military has never used an AR-15. And they're thinking, oh, that's an assault rifle 15. No, that's actually the Armalite rifle model 15. And I grew up in a family that owns guns, and we do not have a criminal history. I mean, my brother is another story, but he committed a different crime. And I don't think we should be discussing that. It has nothing to do with guns. It's a matter of my brother. That does not reflect my family.
And my family doesn't really have like any criminal history. We've shot guns. I've shot them. I know the safety.
Yeah.
I also know the damage they can cause from, practicing on paper targets. Granted, that's not a real person, but you understand.
Yeah, like
what they
self-defense
can do.
and whatnot. But I don't think like any criminal crime of like one person should affect how my family gets viewed.
Right.
But we have never really had incidences with guns. We keep our guns locked up in a cabinet where only one person really knows where the key is, and that's my grandfather at my house, because we do have gun safety.
Right.
And that's one problem when it comes to a lot of those public school mass shooters, because a lot of times parents don't lock up the guns. They didn't necessarily learn gun safety.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy that. Plus, there's been incidences where kids easily got into their parents' gun cabinet or something like that, and there were incidences.
Right.
But I definitely think that with this bill, there should also be a definite requirement, like an obligation to go through gun safety. Like that is something that should definitely be stressed.
Granted, I only read the introduction paragraph to the introduced bill.
This is like barring like whether we know that's there. If it's not, then
That should probably be in there.
Yeah.
If it is, good for them. But like I said, I kind of understand where people who are opposed to it. I understand where they're coming from, and I pretty much side with them for logical reasons. But I understand the argument of those who were for the bill.
Yeah.
So that concludes that little segment.
So we agree that there is like some way to satisfy both ends.
Yeah, but you just have to find what Mr. Red called earlier the happy medium. However, no one knows what that may be because everyone's happy medium is a little different.
Yeah, but I think if you want to satisfy both ends, something that is logical that also provides something healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of conservatives have voiced the idea against gay marriage, but many of the left support gay marriage, but the right is also heavily on like individual freedom and whatnot. That's mainly the libertarians. But I think whenever you're looking at the context of pursuit of happiness and whatnot that is in the Constitution and whatnot, all marriage should be allowed. I mean, after all, love is love.
Right.
And that's where, I mean, sure.
I have family members who are homosexual, and I myself have attended one of their weddings, and it was here in Huntington, and it was just like any other wedding, and we all had a good time.
Yeah, because I don't think it's true that the Christian ideology is against gay marriage.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's true. Like, they're going off of Leviticus, which has an old book of law.
That's the Old Testament. That's why it's called the Old Testament. The Old Testament is more or less like the first 5 books of the Torah in Judaism.
Plus, there's also the thing that before this all got written down, it was passed down by word of mouth, especially from men. And back then, the thoughts of men are very different to what we have now. You and I, we believe heavily in equity and equality and whatnot. So we don't think women as property. We think women as human beings, just like you and I.
Right. They're just like us.
Yeah. So there's also that. And technically, if we were to follow that, then technically we shouldn't be allowed to watch pornography, masturbate. I mean, sure, this is not something good to say on video, but just bring up examples. We wouldn't be able to wear polyester, get tattoos.
And there's a lot of things like if you're going, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, and I'm pretty sure you'll probably chime in with what I'm wanting to say, and please do, because I'm trying to figure out, like, if you're going to regulate that, you got to regulate all these other things that were listed.
Yeah, like the whole debate about bringing the Bible back in school. Like, a lot of these conservatives, I've mainly seen this in the over-religious sector of my family. On my paternal side, they're not too over-religious. I mean, on the far ends, but my cousins have a more agnostic stance. I mean, my cousin, who is only 1 year ahead of us, who's getting ready to graduate, she's openly atheistic, which I've had to argue with her about stuff, because like one time she boasted on Twitter, like, oh, I haven't been to church in a year. That must be something. I'm like, do we really care? Like, I'm kind of an ass sometimes. But the thing is I've had to argue with this because they think that the Bible is the only good thing. And to promote one ideology over the other is technically an infringement on freedom, because everyone's allowed to their own ideas. That is the First Amendment. And whenever you block people from being able to have their ideology, that is infringement. Mm-hmm. And technically we can also see this with like the teaching of Islam in schools over another religion,
right,
being covered more, which I'm kind of against that. What I believe is that no religion should necessarily be taught its structures or foundations in core classes. You can talk about the history of religion, how it's affected the world and whatnot in a social studies class or something like that. But to me, if you want to teach religion, then put it in a separate class of its own as an elective. They're talking about bringing the Bible in school. Well, if you want to bring the Bible back in school, then put it in a theology class and have it compared next to other religions. Let kids choose for themselves.
Right. I took a religious studies class here at the university that we attend, and we went over Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and pretty much all the Western religions.
Yeah. Plus, it's part of your history major.
Right. I had to take a humanities course for my major, and that was the one I took.
Yeah. But the overall thing that I'm trying to say is like putting the Bible back in school, but as a religious class satisfies both sides.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about with the happy medium.
Right.
Yeah. So, is that what you want to say for the gun deal?
Yep. But you know what? This weekend's going to be pretty fun because you know what? My dad and I are going to go see a movie. You want to know what movie we're going to see?
Captain Marvel?
Yeah. How did you know?
Well, as stated in the beginning of the episode, I did want to talk about the Captain Marvel controversy because it's still fresh and relevant. Originally, 2 weeks ago, we were going to be filming this episode, but because of prior commitments that Spencer had, we had to reschedule it for March 6th. And evidently, it still ended up relevant. So I guess I really should get into the context of this.
Yep, just go ahead and talk about what controversy is surrounding Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and then I'm going to insert my views and whatnot. Like, I don't want to put in my views, so I think I should put in the context first.
Right.
Because I'll definitely stay away from bias.
So what exactly is going on?
Okay, so what has happened is that lately the user scores on Rotten Tomatoes have been tanking Captain Marvel, which recently Rotten Tomatoes got rid of that feature because that, like, they want to say, oh, it's not because of the user ratings and Disney being against this. We're doing this on our own. Well, that kind of gives off a bad vibe considering, you know. And it's all because of what Brie Larson said. I think this goes off both Brie Larson and Kevin Feige. Feige? I don't know. I think most people call him Feige. Kevin Feige. It sounds weird to say it. I'm just going to call him Kevin. It just sounds weird. Kevin, the producer of the MCU, and Brie Larson have kind of put Captain Marvel in a really bad place. Now, first I'm going to go off of what Brie Larson had said. Now, last month, she was actually at the Women in Film, TV, and Media Festival, and she was giving a speech, which actually came off as pretty sexist almost, a little bit racist, considered, like a lot of people consider it. And it's shown why a lot of people have this disdain towards modern third wave feminism. Now, we can't say it's all feminism because old school feminism is good. Like, it promotes equality and equity. But modern third wave feminism is about women trying to the women in the third wave feminism movement are trying to seek power over men. And that in itself is a bit sexist. That's misandry. You think, oh, women can't be sexist against men. Well, that is sexist in itself. Sexism is discrimination against a certain sex.
Male, female, what have you.
Yeah. So anyways, here's what she said whenever she was at that festival when she was speaking. I don't know if it was a festival, but it was an event that happened last month. She said, I don't hate white dudes. I'm just saying we need to be conscious of our bias and do our part to make sure that everyone is in the room. Pause there. I want to say, this is I don't hate white dudes. I'm just saying, that's equivalent to a lot of people saying, I'm not racist, but I'm not sexist, but I'm not homophobic, but it's always that but. It really contradicts them. It's a paradox. And what is in here, that is a paradox that I see. Just want to point out. Okay, continuing off what she just said. She said, our industry has gone through major growth. That is true. We are expanding to make films that better reflect people who buy movie tickets, but they are not allowed enough chances to read public discourse on these films by the people these films are made for. I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. And continuing, I want to know what it meant to women of color, to biracial women, to teen women of color, to teens that are biracial. Now, that said, that did not sit well with many. And now many different outlets like possibly Vice, different columns, and even comment sections on Facebook are like, oh, they triggered the white men. And technically it didn't trigger them. It's just that it didn't sit well with them when a movie that is made from a comic book that is meant for the sole purpose of entertainment gets politicized. People don't like it when movies get politicized because entertainment is about escaping the harsh realities. It's about finding a place where you can enjoy yourself. Because even Alice Cooper said this. Alice Cooper, rock legend and icon. Because I've read a couple articles where he did say that whenever he was a kid, he would listen to music as a way to get escape from life. Like he did say, I've read this in blabbermouth.net, other articles. So there's that. And wouldn't you agree that entertainment should not be politicized necessarily?
Well, there's a difference between politicizing it and giving a lesson about life that may seem political, but it's shrouded just as a life lesson.
Yeah. And it didn't sit well with people because one, they're talking about like how she said it wasn't made from. Movies are made for everyone. Okay? Everyone deserves to enjoy a movie. And plus, technically, she's trying to shut down an opposing argument, which, like I said, it's technically an infringement on the First Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. And everyone deserves to say something. Everyone has a critique of it. And she's talking about only wanting to focus on people who are not straight white males, which, to me, I disagree with largely. I think that everyone should be allowed to critique a movie. I think everyone should be allowed to watch it, so on and so forth. There are different movies I didn't think I wanted to watch, but I enjoyed them. Like, I didn't think I wanted to watch Les Mis back when I was a freshman in high school, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You should have seen it on Broadway. I have, and it was so good.
Who am I? No,
You're turning into theater nerds, which I am one myself.
Yeah, which Saturday Night Live did a skit that was a parody of that song with Kenan Thompson as a lobster. It had John Mulaney singing it too. Getting off topic. Then what happened is, aside from that, there was another thing she said where she doesn't want her presser to be overwhelmingly white male. And it's really giving off this bad vibe, to be honest. Because she's making it sound that she's demonizing white men. And a majority of people who come to watch comic book movies are white men. That's not a racial bias. That's actually a fact because it's the reason why Caucasian is a majority race in America. Majority of directors, journalists, whatnot, they're white. You can't control that, really. And because there are low numbers in certain job areas for different races, that's more based on like interests and whatnot, or like I said, statistics and demographics. So it's not really a racial thing; it's more of a statistical thing, and there's not much you can do to change that when there is an overwhelming majority. Maybe if there was equal numbers of each one, maybe, but you can't help it when there's one majority. That's not a racist statement. Like I said, that is actually some statistical stuff. We've seen this. And that didn't sit well, so what they did was they started down voting the movie. And it really did lead to a lot of negative reviews. I don't know how it's going to sit well on Thursday night whenever critics are already putting in, but I'm talking about whenever it commercially opens. And now, inserting my views in this, before I get into these, there's also the thing that Kevin Feige, I can't even stand saying his last name.
Just call him Kevin like you were trying to earlier.
Yeah.
Just say Kevin.
Yeah. As Kevin said, Captain Marvel is one of the most popular characters of Marvel, which actually Captain Marvel has been rebooted several times, like 5 or 6 times in her timeline. So, and plus she was actually on the weaker side, because my father is a comic book nerd. He has so many comic books, even rare ones that are mint.
You could probably say, she's one of the more unique ones, or she's one of the more popular ones. That way you can't say, she's the most popular. She's she's among the most popular.
Yeah, but she's not the most popular. I mean, she could be popular, but not as popular as the ones that we know today, like Iron Man or Captain America. And he's also saying that she's the one that's going to be the one to defeat Thanos, which that makes me think that they're making Captain Marvel into a Mary Sue, which I kind of disagree with, because a Mary Sue is defined as a female character who's strong only for the sake because she's trying to defeat a gender stereotype of some sort or something like that, instead of making her strong for some kind of journey.
Maybe to help everyone.
Yeah, because in Star Wars, it didn't work out that well with Rey because she was just already overpowered and she was easily learning the stuff that took different Jedi decades to master. And so many felt that Rey was a Mary Sue. Anyways, and what's the concern with that is that possibly at Avengers Endgame, they're probably going to use her as some kind of Deus Ex Machina. Which, in that term, Deus Ex Machina is just one thing that's immediately pulled to bring in a climax and ultimately resolve the movie. That just out of nowhere sometimes. And that's my fear about Captain Marvel. Now, I'm not going to be the one who's saying, oh, I'm going to boycott this movie by not seeing it. I'm going to see it because I love comic book movies. Plus, saying you're going to boycott a movie in a franchise that is widely successful is not going to work. Because, as I referred to earlier, the Beauty and the Beast controversy, the over-religious sector of my family, oh, they got a gay character because he looks flamboyant. We're going to boycott the theater. I'm like, no one's going to care. So many others are going to see it. Plus, them having a flamboyant character that could be gay is not going to hurt you. It's just a movie.
And it's just a character.
Exactly.
It's not like he's out parading around. It's not like he's going to come to your house and shove it down your throat. It's just a movie. It's just
exactly. It's not going to hurt you. If you don't want to see the movie, don't see it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Don't like guns, don't buy one. Don't like what this person has to say, don't have to listen to them. But don't shut them down. That's wrong.
You can hear them and say, I see where you came from, but I disagree.
Exactly. And this leads me into the point.
And that'll make you more respectable.
Yeah.
Because they'll probably say, I respect your view.
Yeah. And going further in this, I'm talking about the politicization of movies. A popular example that I've used, that many other people use, is Ghostbusters 2016. Now, of course, recently you heard about the Ghostbusters reboot that's being made that will actually possibly star Finn Wolfhard of Stranger Things, which actually that's a nice reference to the series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm too early 2000s. And now, of course, Leslie Jones, who was one of the leads for the 2016 remake, she explained but she expressed a lot of disdain because she's like, oh, they don't care about the women, they're sexist. That's not the case. It's just that Ghostbusters 2016 was not successful at all. It was a little too politicized, and it took a lot of the wrong steps. Like, it could have been good, but it was a little too politicized. To me, it was too feminist. Like, it was trying to tick off the political checklist of what they needed. One, no men. And if it was going to be a man, it's a man that could be over-sexualized. In this case, Chris Hemsworth as secretary in Ghostbusters 2016.
And kind of dumb him down a bit.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the same thing that some male movies do, is that whenever they have a hot female character in there, they make her a bimbo. You know?
Right.
And anyways, and aside from the no men, they needed someone who was a racial minority, which was Leslie Jones, technically. They needed someone who was gay, which was Cecily Strong or whatever her name is. I don't know, but from what I read up, it's because whenever I look into actors and whatnot, I just like to know who they are, like
Right.
how they got to acting and whatnot, because I like to do my research on things.
Right.
And then there's Melissa McCarthy, because they needed someone who's not skinny. I've got nothing against Melissa McCarthy. I think she's hilarious. Like, I've enjoyed her movies, especially Bridesmaids, The Happy Time Murders. Like, she's enjoyable, but in this movie, those characters got a little bit annoying, you know?
Mm.
And it didn't sit well because it got way too political when it had potential because people were hyped for it. But then when they saw it, it was a box office bomb. And that means that the people didn't like it because it got too political. They could have taken steps. Like, they could have just easily stayed away from politicizing it or trying to, like, reverse all the gender roles and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have just done, you know what? We want to hunt ghosts. We want to save the world. Let's go bust some ghosts. Instead of, like, all the political steps they took.
I haven't seen it, so I don't really know.
I mean, it's not that great. But you get what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sound sexist or anything.
Right.
I'm just explaining certain things. And next to that, I'm trying to remember where I was going with this. I was going to make another point doing something with Ghostbusters. We're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, with your mind.
Yeah, sometimes I can be a little bit slow.
That's okay. I think, if I can go ahead and grab my little short opinion. But you had it.
Now I remember. So, talking about box office bombs, like in how Brie Larson mentioned Wrinkle in Time, how it was a bomb. So here's the thing. Wrinkle in Time, which I guess it must have been a box office bomb from what I'm assuming. I'm only assuming. I'm not saying that it is. It possibly was because you don't really hear about it much. But movies like Ghostbusters 2016 and A Wrinkle in Time, they weren't box office bombs because people are hateful. That's assuming too much because they're trying to like do this woke AF thing, blaming it on anyone who's a straight white man. Or anyone who's straight or just white or whatever. Like, they're blaming it too much on that when that's not the case. It's all a matter of, is this a quality product to the consumer? And all audiences are watching this. And it's not a matter of hateful, because that's really not the case. Like, people didn't like Ghostbusters because it had female leads. They didn't like it because they felt it was politicized. See, Wonder Woman took the right route. Wonder Woman was a kick-ass movie. Like, people widely loved it. People love Alita Battle Angel because it does the right stuff. Like, it doesn't really politicize it. Like, they stick to the quality of the product. Because in a consumer relationship, whenever we're in a capitalist society, it's can you offer a quality product that is worth buying? Because if you don't have a quality product, no one's going to want to buy it. That's how it is. It depends on how much money and whatnot, too. Anyways, when it came to this, it's not that, because, and they're demonizing people who are in what's considered the heteronormative nature. And that's wrong. It's a box office bomb because it's a low quality product. It's because it took some wrong steps that did not sit well with people. And that's what I've been noticing. So my view is Brie Larson, while she's an okay actress, I enjoyed her in the movie Hoot and Kong Skull Island. She definitely made remarks that she's likely going to regret in her acting career, because some directors or film producers might not like what she says and they'll refuse to hire her. That's a contingency right there. And I think that technically she should apologize for her statements and try and better word them. Like, I know what she's trying to have good intent, but it does not come off in the best way. Like, think, oh, Dash, you're a triggered white guy. No, I'm not. I didn't necessarily care much, but I think that her statements were in poor taste, really. And if she had better worded them in a way or something like that, maybe there wouldn't be downvoted reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and such.
I think if either he or I were triggered about it, we probably would be shouting at her.
The only thing I can technically be triggered about, which is a hot topic for me, is the topic of abortion, because I'm an uncle and I'm
right. But that could be saved for a different video.
Yeah, maybe whenever the whole abortion topic gets more heated in the future. But please give us your views, Mr. Blue.
Well, I do agree that, her comments were in poor taste. I also do believe, she probably did have good intentions, but just
it's like
misworded what she wanted to say.
Yeah, it's like talking about the press tour, which she asked to specifically talk to a journalist who is a woman of color who is disabled. Now, technically, if you look at the context, like a woman of color who's disabled, that could technically come off as a little too political. But maybe she could say, like, I want to provide equal chance, like, which I think she did, and give it to someone who is not on the same level as a lot of these really, really successful journalists. Someone who hasn't had a chance for a high-profile story. Someone who is also rather disabled and whatnot. That's actually a good intent because it gives equitable chance.
Right.
And I support that. Because after all, I am a big advocate for respect and support for people with special needs. After all, I am on the autism spectrum. I'm a large advocate for treating people with exceptionalities properly and with respect, treating them just like everyone else. Because just because you're different doesn't mean you're less. I've had to tell this to people, and this especially applies to the political spectrum, because they think if you don't agree with their views that you're someone less. Like, I remember showing you screenshots from a debate I had back during September or October, and they were trying to treat me as subhuman because I didn't agree with their ideology, and that's wrong.
Right.
I believe that, yeah, we may have our differences, but we should all treat each other the same. But please continue.
I also think there is some fault in those who downvoted it just because of what she said.
Like, too hasty a little bit.
Too hasty. Maybe you hadn't seen the movie and you were just going ahead and doing it because, Brie said this. I think there's a little bit of fault in that too, because, you haven't seen the movie. You're just going off of,
what's being said by the lead actor.
You're just going off of some remarks that she unfortunately made that she may or may not regret. That's her call, whether she chooses to, and hopefully she does apologize to some degree.
Thing, like, I don't think they're necessarily triggered, but they overreacted. There's a difference between getting triggered and overreacting. It's just like, it didn't set well with them, but they probably should have waited till they see the movie to put in a user review.
Right.
And like I said, many people are not liking the politicization, the woke stuff, because you see it with the Oscars. Like, people are not watching the Oscars because different people introducing awards and whatnot. They keep getting too political, and it doesn't sit with people because they're tired of hearing about politics, especially views that are all the same across Hollywood. Like, that's why, in Hollywood, yeah, Chris Pratt is ultimately popular, but there are some people who are kind of against him because he's like one of the few A-list Christian actors. But many people are...
And you see some of the stuff he's done in films that may not agree with that.
Yeah, and he's been really
Star
good.
Wars is a perfect example of pretty much that whole thing.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're tired of this politicization, especially from what I call an NPC view. Now, of course, we had the NPC meme, And the thing is that people don't want to hear this stuff anymore. They just want to get to the point. At an award show, they just want to see movie awards and why those movies are there and whatnot. They want to see music performances. They don't want to hear politics. If they want to hear politics, they'll go to CNN or Fox News. Now, those are not the best sources because they're heavily biased. I'm just giving out examples. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, Fox News is not biased. Here's the thing. Back in like August or September, they wrote this article claiming The Rock said something against snowflake culture, which The Rock actually called them out and said, I literally did not say that. And you heard about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But people aren't trying to political. They just want to get a quality product. And that's part of like Steven Crowder making an anti-Oscars part because tired of political. They want to see how much times they like try to mention stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah, people are tired of it. They just want something with quality. Like, a lot of the MCU movies, they have not gotten political, thank God. Like, Iron Man, that wasn't political. I mean, depending on the time period, I mean, if you got a movie taking place in the 60s that has a lot of anti-war sentiment, I'm okay with that because in the 60s there were a lot of anti-war sentiments.
You're displaying the politics of the time.
Accurate historical
viewpoints.
Yeah, and representations. I mean, plus, I definitely think we should always push for an anti-war viewpoint because I'm a pacifist, whatnot. But like I said, people are tired of politics. They just want quality, something to escape. And now, Marvel might have gotten themselves in hotter water because they're talking about wanting to cast their first openly gay superhero. Which, I mean, there are many gay superheroes in the Marvel comics that you can go with. But they're trying to pander to diversity, and I think that's wrong. You can have diverse characters, but I don't think you should just have them for the sake of pandering to diversity to try and get political points. I've mentioned this in the podcast with PC culture and whatnot.
Right.
Like I said, and it ultimately comes down to people don't like it when there's pandering to diversity and whatnot. I mean, I didn't necessarily like Kung Jin in Mortal Kombat X because he felt a little bit forced. So when you pander diversity, it interrupts the flow of the product.
Right.
If you can make something that naturally fits in, that's great. Like, Andy Mack is a great example. They're not pandering diversity. They're showing something that's a natural occurrence. The character sex, which I love Andy Mack. I watch it every Friday. I love the series. It's super mature, and it's appropriate for all ages. I love it. They're like, oh, you're watching a Disney show. What are you doing? I'm like, I just love the show. It piqued my interest when I heard that it was hinting at the main character having been born out of the result of a teenage pregnancy. And that's what piqued my interest, and I ended up loving it. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that it started a lot of controversy during season 2 last year whenever it was strongly hinted at that the character Cyrus Goodman was gay. It was discovering his sexuality. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't put sexuality. They're going to make other kids that gay. I'm like, homosexual people can't make other people homosexual. Homosexual people have grown up in very heteronormative environments, and they still ended up gay. It's a hormone thing. It's something that they can't control. Right. You don't choose your sexuality. And there's also a thing like, they're also saying this is not Christian. I'm like, well, they're trying to stay agnostic while being realistic. This is a realistic thing. And it was organic for the character of Cyrus Goodman because you kind of always felt this character could be gay. You never know. And then when they started acting on it, it was organic. And now they ultimately are in season 3. And midway through, he came out and it was a nice part of his storyline. I was glad that they finally continue on that story arc after that controversy with the far right. Mm-hmm. But that's like a good amount of diversity. It's natural. It's organic. I have nothing against diversity. Just as long as it's organic and it puts forth the flow. Right. If it interrupts the flow or feels forced, I don't like it. You got anything else to say?
Not that I can think of.
Well, this has definitely been an enjoyable discussion.
It definitely has. Thank you for wanting to start this program.
Yeah, like I said, we are people that can be reasoned with. Like I said, there are many people that have been unable to reason with because of them being devout in their views. And they don't want to reason. Or they don't want to think, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe I'm being hasty.
Maybe I need to research more.
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong in saying, I need to I don't know enough about this, so I can't necessarily comment yet. I mean, you've called me out on different topics and whatnot, whether you message me or comment on my posts.
Mm-hmm.
And I ultimately respect you for that, because we can actually openly discuss stuff and we don't get hostile towards each other. Like even after any discussion we have on when we're texting each other, at the end we're just like, well, I respect you for that and thank you for your opinion. We just ultimately have a respect for each other, because they're always saying, oh, you shouldn't discuss politics with your friends. I'm like, well, I think you should definitely be allowed to discuss politics with your friends, because it allows you to discuss current events and whatnot. Because if you don't, it's not really going to think. Plus, the first step to solving a problem is just like acknowledging it and talking about it.
Right.
And people have all their different ways to, solve the problem. And there are many different ways. Some may not be good. Some of them are genius. It's a spectrum. So, ultimately, it's come to the conclusion is like, I don't agree with you, but I respect your ideology, or like, considering my views and how they contrast with yours, maybe we can come up with something that is good for both our ends, that is productive.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been enjoyable, and I can't wait for the next episode.
Absolutely. We hope that this show can be a template to everyone else that may engage in civil discourse. We hope that we can, if you might disagree with myself or my co-host here, please let us know. We'll hear you out. We'll talk.
As ever, this is a place where we can speak honestly. We have freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think it's good to go calling people different labels that are not true.
Right.
And you should be allowed to discuss stuff without being called names. Because, like I said, name calling is an ad hominem fallacy. It goes against the ethics of debate. And it doesn't do anything well for your credibility.
Right.
I've called people out on this, and they only go to mock me. I'm like, you're only proving my point. But
it's not like I walk up to him and say, hey, you Nazi, because he's leaning right. He's only just leaning. He's not all the way over.
Plus, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not a socialist. I'm not hateful. I accept every other person if they can respect me.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't respect me, then I won't talk to them that much. But if they respect me, I'll have a good time. I'm not a hateful person.
Right.
Because I got friends from all over the place. I've got Muslim friends, I've got Christian friends, atheist friends. One of my best friends is agnostic.
Same here. Same here.
I've got friends that are homosexual, friends that are transgender. I don't believe there's such thing as transgender, but I don't bring that up to them because,
you respect them.
Yeah. I mean, if they want to discuss it, that's fine because, open discussion. That's what this show is about.
But if they don't bring it up, let them live life.
Yeah. Yeah, we just live life. Because you don't have to be an ass to people. Because it doesn't take much to show respect. And yeah, they might have disagreeing viewpoints, but that doesn't warrant you to be a jerk.
Right.
And I've had to discuss this with people. I've openly discussed with many great people. And we ultimately had a great discussion and whatnot. Like you and I. But there are other people who make themselves look like pricks, like, oh, you're this or that or some sort. Or because you're this, I'm allowed to be mean to you, or I'm allowed to get aggressive with you.
Right. Because you believe this, I can be X.
And that's wrong. That's how there's been the radical Islam, KKK, Westboro Baptist.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate thing. Just because you disagree with ideology does not warrant you to get aggressive. It really doesn't. And that's something we're definitely pointing out with this show. So, any final remarks from you?
Just as the title of one soap opera was, you have one life to live. Make the best of it.
Yeah. And if there's any topics that you would like us to discuss for either of us to take a side on concerning our leanings and whatnot, please let us know. But also, please be respectful in the comments. Don't call people anything. Don't be mean just because you disagree with either of our viewpoints. Just topics that are relevant in today's current events that could be discussed and hear from our viewpoints.
And also, as another disclaimer, not everyone on the channel has the same opinions as us. We're just on here to explain our side. So don't bash John or Hal or any guests we may have on the future. They have their opinions. We have ours.
Yeah, like I am a libertarian. I tend to be a little provocative on the podcast. John is agnostic. Sometimes he like jokes about Satan and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's just him being funny.
Yeah.
Hal, he's really scientific, but he doesn't really express much opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
we're all laid back individuals. We will talk.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll be pricks to each other, but that's because we're messing around with each other.
We're all friends.
Yeah, and we respect each other. I guess that's one point as to why we are able to have these discussions.
Absolutely.
And usually, whenever I'm debating with people I know and people I don't know, I find it better to sometimes debate people I don't know that I disagree with, because I don't know them and I can forgive them. But whenever it's a person I know and we can't find a reason, like I try to respect everyone I debate. Like I'll insert my views and whatnot, but if someone gets aggressive with me, I will call them out.
Right.
Like I said, there's no reason for you to get aggressive. I have a right to my view. I want to express it, and if you will disagree with it, that's fine. I'll disagree with your viewpoints, and we should agree to disagree. And they're like, I'm not. And some of them have been like, oh, I'm not going to agree with someone who has this ideology because they're like a Nazi or some bull crap.
Right.
And it's obviously not true. Because like labeling is also a bad thing because it's judging.
Right.
And after all, in my religion, it's bad to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Judge not lest ye be judged.
Yep.
We're technically the same religion.
Let ye who be without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah, I try not to judge. And whenever I have my political opinions, I'm not judging people. It's just beliefs. And technically, people should not treat opinion as fact, because it's not. It's just, opinion is rooted out of some supporting material and resources with morality.
Right.
Like a lot of conservative views are rooted in the ideas of individual freedom and Christianity, for example. Because I grew up conservative, but I became a libertarian and really formed a different stance from a lot of my family. Because a lot of my family are far conservative, but me and my older brother are really the only libertarians in the family.
That happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything else you would like to say for the good of the cause?
We brought it to the table.
Yep.
We said it.
And we ate it up.
Yeah, usually we talk beforehand on any topics that we want to talk about, but it's definitely good to see some input on possible topics to talk about. But like I said, please be respectful. That is not just a rule of the channel, but in general, everywhere in this world, please be respectful to the person next to you. It's even said, now, of course, with the Christian ideology, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I treat people equitably. Like, I'm not going to treat people equally because technically that would mean I would not like anyone.
Right.
I treat them equitably. Like, if they show me respect, I'm going to treat them with respect back.
Right.
But if someone doesn't treat me with respect, then there's not much that can be done.
Right.
It's all about equity. Because equity is definitely a nice thing that has merit in one.
Right.
But
this has been the first episode of Bring It to the Table. I'm Mr. Blue.
I'm Mr. Red.
See you later.